What's up, everyone? It's Truly Mental, and I'm Joe Smaro. If you don't know me, thank you for being here. I know we have released one episode this year, and now this is number two. And again, you're wondering, where the hell's Jesse? Sorry. We actually were home like a week and a half, and we had a plan to it was one of our to-do things to get together and record a podcast. But like always, when we get home, time gets away from us, and commitments, obligations, the things like that, kids, family, um, golf, guitaring. I don't know if that's a word, guitaring. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to do a little video and audio podcast now. So I'm going to put these up on YouTube as well. And if you have not been over to our YouTube channel to subscribe, well, then we should fix that. All right. Jump over there and subscribe if you want to watch the video, if you're safely in a place where you can sit back, relax, and watch the video. If not, then podcast is good. We'll do a little bit of both. But there was something that happened today that I wanted to share. And again, Jesse and I are both leaving tomorrow. So he's actually flying to Denver to do a one-day gig with one of our clients, which is the Federal Bureau of Prisons. And I'm flying to Anaheim to provide a presentation at the International Association Chiefs of Police Officer Safety and Wellness Symposium, IACP OSW Symposium. It's a lot of words, a lot of letters. Anyway, I'm going to be out there this week to provide a talk at that conference. I've done several over the previous years, and it's always good just because I get to see what else is going on, see what other people are doing, see what other agencies are running programming wise, and just network with hopefully like-minded people. Speaking of, so we had a team call earlier today. We had a meeting with a great group of people that Jesse's brother-in-law actually introduced us to. And we met this gentleman who's incredible, who had a beautiful career and is now doing some great work. And so anyway, we met with him and we were talking, and he was basically doing an inquiry to us, finding out who we are, what we do, what we're working on. And when we were telling him a little bit about Solution Point Plus and what we do and what we're working on, he said, there are so many companies, so many police agencies, so many people that are creating programs, wellness programs. For those of you that don't know, again, Solution Point Plus, that's kind of our jam. That's why we exist. One of the things that we stand on is that we would love to see a calendar year where we have zero suicides in policing. And so everything we do, we use as a vehicle to kind of infiltrate the hearts and minds of the first responders that we interface with, and try and create that message, trying to create and spread that hope. And so he said, there's so many out there doing it right now, and a lot of them are terrible. He specifically has sat through some of them, as he is a lieutenant with a large police department. And he said, there's so many poorly ran programs that exist. And I immediately got stuck between two thoughts, which the first was, well, at least something's being done, right? Unsure on that. And then the other thought was like, that's really unfortunate, because it sucks to sit through terrible training for everybody. And if there's one of the things that we gauge ourselves on with Solution Point Plus is we're always looking for behavior change. If there's no behavior change, then was it really valuable? If people aren't willing, if one person isn't willing to change something about their behavior, their belief, their thought process, something, then was it of value? And that's a legitimate question that we sit with. And I think the answer is no. If there is no behavior change, if there's no thought change, then it was kind of just a time suck. And it reminds me of this great Peter Drucker quote that many of you have heard, which is culture eats strategy for breakfast. We've also heard culture eats process for breakfast. I would like to add to that mix, specific to not even just policing, but first responder agencies, but we'll stick with law enforcement. Within that same vein, I would say culture eats resources for breakfast. And one of the things I think we have to understand, again, based on my experience, is it's never been about resources. It is not about resources. And if you think that throwing resources into or at a police agency is somehow going to help or shift or make a great change, I'm telling you that it's probably a waste of time, money, and resources, because you are simply doing things out of what I would call order of operations, which is going to lead to effectiveness. If you don't have the right things in order, meaning culture, then people aren't going to subscribe to your resources. Like, it's just not going to work. And we've seen this so many times. I've seen it personally. I've seen it. And I'll share you an anecdote that in San Antonio, where I come from, again, like, I had great experiences with the San Antonio Police Department. But one of the problems I had was that SAPD, many years ago, we made this PERF report, the Police Executive Research Forum, and SAPD made like one of the top 10 police agencies in the country for wellness programs. And I'm on the mental health unit and I'm thinking, what wellness program? Like, we had 3 suicides in 18 months. How are we in the top 10 of anything that is good specific to wellness, officer wellness, when we have 3 suicides in 18 months? And it's like, oh, because it's not actually about effectiveness. It's about optics. And when the optics are good, meaning, hey, we've got a large peer support team. We have a full-time mental health unit. We have department psychologists specifically for our officers. Bravo, bravo. Then we are doing really well with our wellness programs. I would argue, is it really going well if people don't use it? Is it really going well if people don't trust it? Is it really going well if we're having suicides? And that shouldn't be the metric. I agree. It should not be the metric of just saying, well, we haven't had any suicides, so we must be doing well. That should never be the metric. But what I also add to that is, like, one, that's the ultimate low bottom metric, is if someone is dying by suicide, that's a problem. But the other end of that spectrum is like, what does your internal affairs records look like? How many people are complaining against your officers? How many of your officers are struggling out there, pissed off or frustrated or calling in? Or how many of your officers are making poor choices or using excessive force? And we're misidentifying this and we're seeing it as a person problem, like this is an officer related problem, when really it's deeper than that. Almost always. It is almost always deeper than that. And when I see an officer in the media or on a body cam video that gets shared with me, or I see it online and I see them making poor choices, I see them losing their cool, I see them screaming at some citizen, I see them cursing their face off in pure anger and rage, I see them using force or excessive force, I don't go to judgment. I don't say, what the hell's wrong with that guy or girl? I immediately think, man, I can't even imagine how much baggage they were carrying to that one situation. And this is not an excuse. This is reality for so many people. When cops lose their shit, it has little to do with the call that they're on in that moment. And it has so much to do with the day before, the week before, the months before, or the years before. And this compounding effect of trauma that largely goes unprocessed and then becomes this thing where there's an implosion and it sadly gets taken out in the community. Again, not an excuse. So what does that mean then? It means that we have to address the cultural issues. We have to address cultural issues. And the problem is, in my experience, is anytime someone comes and says, we have a culture problem, people are immediately like, oh, that's too large of a problem. Let's just avoid it. Let's just avoid it, because how do you really deal with a cultural issue? And I think it's kind of the old cliche saying of the same way you eat an elephant, right? You pet its tail first, you take off one of its ears, you deep fry it. And I'm just kidding. That's not real. Like, no one does any of that. You don't pet an elephant's tail, I don't think. And you certainly don't deep fry their ears. That would be terrible. But it's one bite at a time, right? It's small pieces. Small pieces lead to great change. But we have so many people that resist this idea of small pieces. Or I would argue maybe even a bigger problem is we're doing these check the box programs. We are not vetting programs. We are not looking deeply enough into programs that we're bringing into our agencies. We're just hiring people left and right. We're just having in-house, like, hey, watch this webinar. And now you create a training, you deliver it to our agency. Meanwhile, that person who is tasked with that actually doesn't care. And not that they don't care about people, but they're not bought into it enough in the right way for them to actually have any real like weight into the delivering of that message. Like, if they're not bought into it, if they're not passionate about it, if they don't actually believe in it, if this was something that was just tasked to them, then that's going to come out in the way that the message is conveyed, right? And again, I was a cop long enough to know I've sat through plenty of terrible trainings where I'm like, yeah, for sure, there will be zero behavior change from this training. It was clear to me from the bottom up and the top down, we're just checking a box off and we're just going through the requirement to say, yep, liability's sake, we went through that, we're good to go. But does it actually lead to any change of results? And I found this interesting. So I was doing a little reading, a little research, and I want to bring this up. This is from Culture Amp. And it was 11 employee wellness programs that work. Okay, that's a key. 11 employee wellness programs that work. And I'm going to just read through these quick and then do a quick debrief. Number one, flexible working hours. How's that working for you there, coppers? How much do you get to come in and say, you know what? I think I want to work from home today. Or, hey, this like 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. shift really doesn't work for my family. I'm a single mother. I'm going through a divorce. I really need to just start working noon to 8. But actually, that doesn't work either, because who's going to take care of my kids in the evening? So I can't work overnights. Oh, we'll do a hardship. Well, that hardship is going to expire, and it expires way before the kids get old enough to actually outlive that expiration date. And so then it's like, well, now you put me between a rock and a hard place. What am I supposed to do next? Flexible working hours. That's not realistic in policing. Remote working arrangements. Number two, imagine that, policing from home. Many jobs during the Great Resignation or the Great Reorientation, whatever we want to call it, 2020, 2021, some of 2022, a lot of remote work was happening. Policing has never had that luxury, and you're simply never going to be able to work from home. That's just the nature of the beast. So number two, that's out. Number three, financial education. Oh, that's beautiful. Financial literacy, wholeheartedly believe in this. Also know it's a massive gap in policing. There is a massive gap in many first responders having any financial literacy. We know paycheck to paycheck. We know overtime equals fun time. The more money I can make, the more things I can buy, not the more I can save, not the more I can invest, but the more I make, the more I can buy, and the higher the lifestyle I can live. And then when something is threatened, taken away, I get an injury, I can't work overtime anymore. Repos, bankruptcies, financial stress, marriage issues, divorce, financial issues galore. So many first responders suffer from a lack of financial freedom, and it's not because they're not making good money. I know there's a lot of police officers that make terrible money. That's a huge problem in and of itself. Again, put me in charge of all things policing, the first order of business. That's not true, but it's definitely in my top 6 of things that need to change. Any police officer that starts the academy, your starting pay rate is $85,000. You want good quality people. You've heard the saying, and it's true. You get what you pay for. You get what you pay for. Why are you expecting a cop making $30,000 a year, expecting them to be a behavioral health expert, a marriage expert, a parenting expert, a social scientist? You're expecting so much out of people that you're paying $30,000 a year. It's not going to happen. You're going to get poor results. And so, again, we can complain about that, but the reality is yeah, let's pay our people 85 grand. You're going to get a different caliber of people. But with that, we also need financial education. That's program number 3, massive gap in policing, something to be addressed. Number 4, give your employees autonomy. Wow. Give your employees autonomy. I have an idea. Let's strap a camera to you. Let's make every call like a scene from Blair Witch Project. And now we're going to have a dash cam. We're going to have a body cam. We're going to have cell phone cam. And you are constantly under scrutiny for everything you do, how you drive, how you walk, where you eat, how you park, whether you back into a spot, pull into a spot, how many cop cars are in a restaurant, how long you've been at a break. You are constantly under scrutiny. And so it's like, okay, how much autonomy do we really have? Like, how much autonomy do you really have as a police officer in a marked unit wearing a uniform? Very little, sadly, unless you're on a specialized unit, which again, few and far in between. But yes, there is some luxury to that. So number 4, lacking. 5, require work-life balance. Require a work-life balance. What does that look like? Right? There's so many people who talk about this. First of all, what is work-life balance? In policing, the saying is don't bring your work home and don't bring home to work. Well, that's a lie. It's not even like It's not even possible. The brain does not know how to differentiate. It can't say, okay, turn this lever and I will suddenly not think about any of those horrific work calls I had today because I am home and I was given a direct order, right? It's ridiculous. And so this whole balance, I would say, yeah, minimize overtime. Like do the job that is required of you and do it really well. Like be a high quality first responder, but maybe don't go above and beyond that, right? Maybe find a way to create some more money if you need more money in your life outside of the job that you honestly, you're on the fence if you even love it. And so I've seen so many cops that hate the job. They've lost the love for it. They've lost the passion for it, and they've become a prisoner to their pension. They are a prisoner to their pension, which is a whole other episode we're going to do down the road, I promise you. But when you are a prisoner to your pension, you are not showing up to work every day full of life, full of zeal, excitement, looking forward to what the day has to offer. You're simply trying to survive the day. And then you're also going to sign up for overtime because you put yourself in a bind to where you need that money. That's a terrible existence, my friends. Like if you don't love the thing you're doing and you're like, you know what, give me some more of that. You're a glutton for punishment, which again, many humans are. We just like saturate in our own suffering. It's like I tell people that emotions to adults are like dirty diapers to kids. And a lot of us, we have these feelings which create like a uncomfortable feeling or moment in our pants. And our rapid thought is just change it. Just change it. I want to get these off and get clean. And it's like, no. The best thing we can actually do is learn to sit in that discomfort for a little bit to realize like, what is the story it's telling me? What is the message behind this? Where's the lesson in the emotion that I'm actually feeling right now instead of rushing to avoid it, which many people do. Let's press. Number 6, celebrate employees' successes. How about those annual performance evals? How about those performance reviews where they're like throwing it together the day before, just saying, you did good. Your uniform looks sharp. You plan on going to college? Well done taking that one class. You have anything for me? All right, sign here. Good job. Like, what is happening? I don't think we do nearly a good enough job. Now, yes, life-saving awards and Purple Hearts and merits and letters of accommodation and plaques from the city and the county and the state and all kinds of recognition for reaching certain benchmarks. There's a bunch out there for sure. And a lot of cops don't love the like public praise, but those like one-on-ones, like if you're a patrol supervisor, to call in one of your guys or girls after roll call and just call them in and praise them verbally, that goes so far for them. That goes so far. Hey, I was reviewing some body cam yesterday and I watched this one call. You really did a great job, like upholding our standards, like how professional you were, the way you maintained your cool during that entire situation, the way you communicated with that person, like the resources you offered them. Like it was just a really, really good job. And I just want you to know that I saw it and I'm very proud of you. Like think about that instead of constantly getting sanctioned for what you did wrong. We need to praise more about the things we're doing right because you'll get more in return by doing it that way. Number 7, on-site fitness accommodations. Most police departments are pretty good about this. Most police departments offer this. They have gyms, they have financial incentives, maybe of gym memberships, or they have them at their precinct or their police substations or whatever they're called in your area. And again, but it's not really pushed. It's not really incentivized enough. I will say San Antonio did a great job of this. San Antonio, based on all the departments that I've looked at and trained with or talked to or whatever, I think SAPD has one of the best ones. Like if you, at our annual in-service training, if you go and take the PT test and you're at your age standard for the PT test, you get 40 hours of vacation. You get a week off for just staying in decent shape, not even great shape, like just decent, like good enough. Like that's a great program. Right. But again, I've talked to a lot of agencies that are like, what? I get 4 hours. There's no incentive. I get nothing. Like it's just expected of me to stay in shape. Well, if we're not incentivizing it, probably not going to happen. Number 8, add collaborative workspaces. Well, I guess that would just mean doubling up in your patrol car, which so many of you right now, if you're a police officer, are like, no, that is my office. That is my shop. That is my space. I hate it when I have a rider. Um, Maybe you're in a city that is doubled up. I don't know. Again, I've heard it both ways. I know for 11 years of my policing career on the mental health unit, I was doubled up, and there's pros and cons to it for sure. There is some great perks about being alone sometimes. And there's also a lot of positives about having someone else in the vehicle with you. But uh, again, if you're not on patrol and you're inside of an office or you're in an investigations unit, there's a lot more collaboration there. But even considering how those are set up, right? Cubicles versus open workspaces, there's a bunch of different stuff out there about that now. But even collaborating within your community, I think is huge, which goes to number 9, support community involvement. And I talk about this in my own wellness class, a part of the wellness programs that we offer with Solution Point Plus. But like, what are you doing in your days off? Right? Like, what do you do in your time off? Are you just kind of sucking to the couch? Are you, you know, like, do you do any community engagement or involvement at all? Do you belong to a church or a food bank or a nonprofit or any program that is selflessly giving of your time? And the answer is no. We kind of we've created our own bubble. We've minimized our social circles. We only have 3 maybe friends that we talk to and hang out with outside of work. I'm not talking about social media and all you Facebook and IG warriors out there. Like, yes, you're if you look on your phone, you have hundreds or thousands of friends. But imagine you just bought a new sectional and 2 new beds and a tool chest and a dining room table, and all the delivery trucks in the city are all broken down, and you have to get them moved into your house tomorrow. You will realize real quick who your friends are. So again, I go back to, you might have 3. And that's one of the problems that I've seen is we create such small circles around us. And that's a trust issue. That's a fear issue. It ties into a lot of things. But the problem is the story we've created is that I have a lot of friends. I have so many friends. Hell, I've got 600 followers. I have 1,200 connections on LinkedIn. I have stop it. Those are not your friends. Even if they message you every day, they're not your friends. Okay. They might be your social world friends. They're your virtual pen pals. That's what I call them. They're virtual pen pals. All right. You need to get involved in the communities. It's good for you. Number 10, parent coaching and support. Let's just call this family. How's your family doing? For all our first responders listening to this, how's your wife or your husband or your partner feel about your job, about your hours, about your involvement at home, about your emotional availability? How do your kids feel? How present are you with your children? And again, please, if you know me, you know I'm not coming from judgment. I'm the worst at all of them. I have a storied history for sure of failure. And when I look in my rearview mirror, it absolutely can bring me to my knees. And it's why I'm so committed in therapy and treatment, is because I have created just a carving of destruction, a wake of destruction behind me. And all I can do is say, okay, like, I'm not going to deny it. I'm not going to create excuses for it. I'm just going to say, yes, I did that. I messed up. I was wrong. I learned from this. What can I learn from this? And how can we do better today? How can we do better tomorrow? Right? There's simply not enough support for families, for our first responder agencies. There's just not. There's not enough support for spouses to recognize signs and symptoms of change, to recognize signs and symptoms of post-traumatic stress or post-traumatic stress injury or post-traumatic stress disorder. There's not enough signs and awareness and education for our spouses and our family of first responders to recognize when things are like, what does it mean when they are more irritable, or they don't want to engage in social gatherings anymore, or holiday functions, or they no longer want to go to your parents' house, or they no longer want to do the things, and they become a used to cop. All right. And the used to cop is, I used to do XYZ. I used to enjoy this and this. I used to, and now, I just, you know what? The world sucks. People are dangerous. Everyone dies. I just want to stay home and eat chips and watch TV. That's a problem. Okay. And so again, but families simply are not prepared for it. And then the last one is number 11, which is de-stressing activities. De-stressing activities. I would say this is probably one of the most important because it puts the onus on the individual, you. And like my good friend Tom Bilyeu, I have the same belief. Everything is my fault. I cannot sit back and wait. And guys, I'm telling you this with all the love in the world. Whoever's listening to this, whether you're a first responder or not, doesn't matter. Whoever's listening to this, your job, your family, your community, your city, your county, your state, your government, your country is not coming for you. They are not coming to save you. Okay. They are not coming to save you. It is an individual inside job. Party of one, no one else invited. Yeah, you can create a team for sure. You can create support for sure. You can have accountability partners for sure, but you're only ever going to change at the level you decide. Period. Period. That's the beautiful freedom of being an adult in our country is you get to decide. And if you are suffering, if you're miserable, if you hate everything, if you're mad all the time, that's your fault. Just as if you're happy and wise and fulfilled and intelligent and desirable and excited and whatever, like that's also your fault. Like it is your responsibility. So when we look at de-stressing activities, what do you, and I would say like get really granular on this. What are you doing in between every call? Between every one of those mini deployments, what are you doing? How are you thinking? What are the stories you're telling yourself? What are you listening to on the radio? What are you doing on your phone in between calls? Who are you talking to? What are you telling yourself in your head? What are you saying out loud? All of that matters so much. What's your breathing techniques? Are you doing any box breathing? Are you trying to regulate your parasympathetic nervous system so that you can show up fully vibrant and yourself, clear-eyed and clear-minded on that next call? So many people know. And again, why do I say when I see an officer implode on a situation or on a person, it almost has nothing to do with that person. It's because there's this cumulative effect that has been in place for weeks, months, years for so many people. If we learn to de-stress in between situations, if we learn to de-stress between calls, if we learn to de-stress after your shift, if you learn to de-stress when you get home, if you learn to de-stress before you go into work, multiple checkpoints, create them for yourself. Create them for yourself. Don't let days go by. Don't let weeks go by, months go by, and we're not de-stressing, because where do you think it goes? Right? It lives within the body. You're dumping cortisol. You're becoming unhealthy interiorly. I don't know if that's a word. Interiorly, your insides are getting gutted. Okay. Your insides are unhealthy. We'll go that. But yeah, like we have to learn to de-stress. It's a huge thing. Turn it off. Turn your cop off. Turn your manager off. Turn your supervisor off. Turn it all off. Just learn to love yourself, right? Learn to love yourself. If the scariest place for so many to be is alone in their thoughts, sit with that. See where your mind goes, right? If energy flows where attention goes and what you think you become, what do you become? What story have you told your brain that you actually believe, and is it serving you? I don't know. Wellness programs. There's 150,000 of them out there. Some of them are free. Some of them are online. Some of them cost money. Some of them are good. Some of them are poor. Some of them are great. If you want something that I would stand by because we've created it based on lived and learned experiences, again, reach out to us. We're happy to come talk. We're happy to come train. We're happy to come consult. We're happy to come look at. We are happy to come look at and assess or create something for you if you ever need it. It's what I stand ready to do. It's what Jesse stands ready to do. It's what our company exists for, is so that we can have a bottom up and a top down approach so that we can start taking a bite out of culture. I love y'all. Be well. We'll see you on the next, guys. We'll see you on the next one, guys. And yeah, don't forget to connect, subscribe on YouTube, listen to the podcast, share it far and wide. If you know a first responder, send them the episode. And this is Truly Mental, and we are signing off. Thanks, y'all.